Hello, Grand Rapids. Happy New Year. This is City Manager Mark Washington, and lots of new things are happening in the new year. We have a new website we're going to be unveiling here shortly. We talked about that at the last City Commission meeting, but we're always paying attention to what's happening, not here at just a local level, but state and federal level. And there's lots of policy discussions around funding as well as legislation. And we have a team here, a very capable team who works with me and our City Commission to ensure that they're advocating on behalf of Grand Rapids. And so Chief of Staff Lou Canfield, our Government and Legislative Affairs Officer Karyn Ferrick is here with us. So specifically, Lou, with all of the uncertainty at the federal level, it seems like with the conflicts abroad, with the government shutdown, even at the state level, with the attempted clawback of certain funds, and now in the legal dispute, it just seems like government has become very, very unpredictable. How do you help us, despite what we see on the outside, ensure that we have more predictable government and policy here locally?
Well, we have to be very strategic with our attention, with our efforts, and we have a strategic plan, and we have a legislative priority agenda that's aligned with that, and so that tells us what to pay attention to, because there's always some new shiny object that we could be paying attention to every day or every hour. So we know what matters to the City Commission, to you, to our residents, and so even though we're paying attention to the whole spectrum of what's going on, we are laser focused on the things that we know are important to the city of Grand Rapids.
And help some of the Grand Rapidians know how we navigate our interests among many other cities, many other states, and ensuring that in Lansing and DC, our voice can be heard.
All right. Well, it all starts with paying attention. So government in the U.S. is a very dynamic system, state, federal, local. And so we have to pay attention to what's going on in Lansing, in DC, and we have a great team to help us with that. And Karyn can tell a little more about some of the people involved in that team.
So we work very closely with a team that's on the ground in Lansing as well as in Washington, D.C. to make sure that our interests and priorities here at the city are being advocated for in both those cities, to ensure that our priorities are being advanced at the state and federal level, and that they're making investments in the city and making sure that policies that we need advanced are making their way through the process, and anything that we need to see change, we can work with our delegation both at the state and federal level to see those things happen.
So we have contracts with consultants and lobbyists, McCabe Merchant and Potomac.
Strategic Development Company.
There in DC and in Lansing, and many of the things that people are seeing around the city, whether it's river restoration or amphitheater construction or McKay Lodge, a lot of that has been achieved through partnership with both state and federal government, fire stations, and we've had to advocate for funding for those. Talk a little bit about some of those projects and how we partner with state and federal government to deliver those.
So every year at the federal level, there is a process for community project funding on the House appropriation sides. And then also on the Senate side, they have the community directed spending process that usually kicks off in the spring. And through my office, we work with our department directors to come up with some prioritized projects that we submit applications for funding. And then that coincides with the federal appropriations process, and it works its way through that process. And we hope that at the end of it, something will hopefully get funded in the final appropriations bill. And we were actually just notified that our water resource recovery facility did get just over $1 million for the UV disinfection light program. It's a upgrade, so we're very excited about that. That's a project that's been in the works for a little while, and it will very much help our biodigester.
What do you find most challenging in this kind of work?
It is very challenging in this environment because we seem to have lost the ability to simply have a conversation. Things have become so politically charged that partisanship has really gotten in the way of good public policy. And my job is nonpartisan. And so many of the city's priorities, infrastructure, housing, investment in the city, those things are very nonpartisan in nature. And so it does get challenging when we're not able to just sit down and have a good conversation about what the best public policy is. But that's where our relationships and community engagement and being able to listen and hear what it is that, ultimately the goal is, and then compromise comes in. And that's where, the work, the rubber really starts to meet the road. So.
And again, I can't say enough how our delegation from West Michigan is very collaborative of working across party lines. That has been my experience, and so I'm very appreciative of them working with us and with, of course, your work as well.
I would agree with that. They have been fantastic to work with, both at the state and federal level, and I couldn't do my job without fantastic partners at both levels every day.
Well, again, it takes a team effort. We have a lot of people who help to represent the Grand Rapids area, both at state and federal level, but we have strong advocacy for my mayoral leadership, both past Mayor Rosalind Bliss, as well as current Mayor David LeGrand, and we've gotten some policy that's been favorable to us in Grand Rapids, Kent County. We have our local land bank now. We also have a brownfield plan, statewide, that would allow us to use that program for affordable housing, as well as we've advocated for some revenue through the local revenue allocation through the hotel lodging tax process. So all that happened through your work and the work of many others. And tell us what's down the road.
So right now, we're actually just looking to prioritize more change at the state level so that we can incentivize additional housing. As you all know, there is a need for increased housing in our city at all levels. And so we'd like to see some further change at the state level to incentivize and increase housing in our city. We've prioritized some change around accessory dwelling units. So that's one of the items that we're looking at. As well as we're also looking at some infrastructure improvements and maintaining our infrastructure. So some of that will relate to, not only policy, but also just investment. We've been working on replacing our lead service line throughout the city. That's been an ongoing project that we sort of led the way on. And so we'll continue to, get that done and seek investment and, work with the state as we go on that.
Well, appreciate the work of both of you, and it is very important work, and it's often very complicated, not just because of the politics, but the nature of it itself. But you guys do a really good job of helping us navigate that, and really appreciate what you do. So we'll see you next month.